let's add Mr. Jeremiah's around.
I know I have a message I have not read. Anyways, I always see that when I'm reviewing portfolios. Yeah, so junior 3D environment artists, Cairo, Egypt. What I usually look at is when I see environment artists, I tend to not look at like, I don't like seeing people say, oh, I'm a student, or because we're all kind of students forever. But if I look at the portfolio right now, what I'm seeing is actually someone who looks like they're more interested in prop art or weapons. So like just right off the bat, it kind of feels like there's a bit of a mismatch with what you're displaying versus like what you want to be. The Overwatch fan art. I don't know if like when you look at portfolios, are you looking in order? Because usually I'll look in order from the end and go my way up. But yeah.
I mean, for me, it depends. Like, so certain people, they have a lot, but maybe too much on the R station. So obviously, I would look probably from left top and then on the way down, rather than down. But I guess what you're saying is you're assuming the oldest one is at the bottom, right?
Yeah, usually I'll ask as well. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that also, because like this is 3 years ago.
Because I organize normally my portfolio in color scheme. So it's like, because I do lighting, so it's like dark, bright, dark, bright, dark, bright, dark, bright. So there's like a system.
Of course
to
you
it.
do that. So okay, so we've got the recorder is 3 years ago, and then we've got this pistol 2 years ago. I'm no weapons expert, right? But when I look at weapons, for me, it's all about understanding the materials and making sure that your PBR values are correct. Because like you can probably attest to this with lighting. If the PBR values are wrong, like lighting can't help you. Whereas like before PBR, lighting could kind of like make everything just look good. You could just kind of make it work. But now everything has to be pretty accurate in order for it to excel.
Yeah, and also the angle, you know, the one you have up now with the gunfire. Also, the angle is a bit odd, and there's some blur effect in the top. Also, I don't know what's going on with the green thing. It's
this one here.
The bullet falling out. It's a bit, you know, out of focus.
It's in action, right?
Yeah. So
it's supposed to be like, yeah. I do like this. It's maybe with the FOV being so shallow, it's like it squishes it down. You get this orthographic type of feel.
Yeah. I think you need to be careful as well with the fire effect. The gunfire looks like, you know, when you have New Year's Eve, you have some of those just goes up. So I think unless you've ever experienced, yeah, it looks like a flare. I don't know if it's a flare gun, but you know, it looks like a flare for a handgun.
The other thing I think I would say is like with the metal being so dark, I think the environment that your asset is in, as far as like the HDR, is reflecting and making this material look much darker than it actually is. I wonder if this is where I wish I had like a real time. See, when I look at the textures as well, I don't know. When I look at a weapon, it depends how the material's been treated. Because we're in PBR, you want to think physical all the time, right? So is this powder coated? I'm assuming so. And then the scratches are exposing the raw metal. And then like you're telling stories in your roughness, which is really good. But I'm trying to figure out like, is it powder coated in such a black type of material that the pistol ends up being really, really dark? It might be too dark. I think it's within PBR range. It's just really dark. And that's why I kind of err on the HDR side, where I'm like, oh, maybe the environment that it's reflecting back is quite dark. But did you want to say anything else on this? Because I was just going to kind of...
No, I think I'll let you progress for now, and you can, because you know it's a learning opportunity for me as well to see what you spot. And
oh yeah, you're learning from? Oh wow, okay, all right. This dagger is 7 months ago. I usually look at time to try and get a sense of like where someone is at in their skill level. This one I actually really like. The dagger itself, like the blade, feels strange to me. Maybe there's just the way it's polished feels odd, but this like horn, I'm assuming this is like a horn, dude.
It comes
Anyways,
from I mean, some of these people come from your community, obviously, as well.
I'm assuming this is a horn, right? But I love that gradient of wear and aging. If there was like something that was building up on the inside there, I think that would push it even further. But I do like that type of gradient. I don't know what the surface is though when I look at the material itself, like the roughness. It's usually the roughness is off, and that's what hints me to like, oh, what is this made out of? Like if
It
it's
looks
bone,
plastic or something to me. Or it doesn't
right
look
now,
wood.
yeah. Like if it's wood or if it's bone, like the wear here makes me think bone because it becomes lighter and whatnot. But if it's bone, it probably has a pretty chalky attribute to the surface, so the roughness is going to be really high. The other thing too is depending on how the bone reacts to lighting, you may get a bit of a subsurface attribute to it. So in that sense, you could soften the look of it even further if you combine both of those. I just saw a funny message from my my dad just logged into WoW. Anyways,
why not?
I love this presentation. I think if it was on a surface that was more recognizable, like if it was a cloth with a little bit of folds in there, you get a lot more like dynamic lighting and shadows that are just kind of bouncing around the scene. Even if it's just these props, I think that could push it further. I'm usually not too much of a fan of blank backgrounds. This one's all right with the gradients. I guess the only fear with gradients is to watch out for compression, because it usually will crush your gradients down and make weird patterns. But yeah, you have anything on this one?
I mean, for me, so you're saying the materials are correct on the blade?
I don't know. Something's off.
Yes.
Something is off. Maybe the way the brushed pattern on it.
Yeah.
I don't look at enough blades.
No, I mean, obviously I'm looking at the real things as you're talking and we're going, okay. So for me, I think part of the presentation, even if you don't do a lot with the environment and having it on a wood stub or something to enhance the presentation of your knives, or in a stub or something, for me it looks like, when I say overcast lighting, it means it's very flat lighting. So I would have appreciated more lighting on terms of highlighting the blade a bit to make it more reflective, because it's lacking that reflective that I would like to see on knives. And if you go in real life and you look at references, they are quite reflective based on the angle, and you have quite an angle, and there's no sign of environment that's very clear, wood, whatever environment you would go for. And it's the same with the wood as well. But as Jeremiah is saying, the wood could be anything, but it looks a bit plastic. So if it was bone, which it might be, and I don't know, if you want to type in the private chat to let us know what it is, feel comfortable to do it. But if you're online, and let's see, where are you? What's the name, Gamal? So we're gonna add you into the call now, so you can actually explain a little bit. There you go.
Hey.
Hey, man.
Hello.
Yo, dude.
So it's like it's an ivory, and yeah, I think the roughness is a bit off.
Yeah. So for me, lighting is part of any artist, 3D artist, environment art is definitely something I recommend people to look up and learn a little bit more about. And part of that is the reflection, where you put the reflection, if it's in engine or if it's in Maya, ZBrush, doesn't really matter. Getting those highlights, getting those specular effects a bit visible as well. That is going to enhance your presentation and believability. Right now, it looks like you took a very soft light, probably an area light, because you can see on the shadows, they're very diffuse. And the problem with that, it gives you just a flat lighting. What you want to do is you want to use spotlights, kind of rim the edges of the light, make sure you use SGRI backdrop or something from Maya, just to enhance the look a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want me to put up some real examples to illustrate a bit more? Do you have references? That's one of the challenges with people who do it. Art, is I like to see ArtStation that you can show me some references as well, because it gives it shows us if you have the ability to spot things in reference. You know, if you have a trained eye.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that's actually I was hoping to see some the reference or references that you used to compile what you created, because then you can see like, oh, if the reference literally looks like this, then you actually were nailing it, right? So maybe it's actually more accurate than we realize. But we don't have the reference, so we don't know.
Okay, I'm now searching for the reference.
Cool.
So,
While you search for it, we'll move on to the next pieces in your portfolio, see if there's a pattern we can spot.
I mean, I think with the Overwatch fan art, this one's much more of a stylized approach, right? I don't know if I guess because you're in the call, are you focusing on stylized, or you want to go more realistic? Oh, this
yeah,
is nice.
realistic is my focus now.
Mhm.
So it was an art test for the company that I work for now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, despite it being stylized, like just seeing how you're using your UVs and what's considered duplicate meshes is quite an interesting way of visualizing and understanding how you how you build things or how you think about reuse. Scroll through this. Yeah, and the reference. Yeah, so honestly, I would move on from this one and just go to the next one. Did you want to comment on anything on here? I think it looks.
Can I see the reference?
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 second. Yeah.
I mean, it was an Overwatch fan art reference. It's obviously for me. I can see there's more specular reflective surfaces, which again is twofold. It's understanding how materials interact with your lighting. So either the materials are correct, but you didn't do the correct lighting according to your reference and look, or it's both. You can look at the surface on the black side. You can look at the specular effect on the curves. That is very highlighted in the references, but it's not highlighted in your work. It's more diffuse, I would say, according to me, in your actual work compared to the presentation of the fan art. So these are the things I pay attention to. You can, it's missing that. In fact, you should have added more specular. You can see you try doing it, which is a very good job, but it's spread out a bit, suggesting you have either a very big light source or you didn't pull in enough specular detail on your surfaces, basically. But still,
I think
very
it
good
might
job.
be when I like.
That's where you come. That's where you come in, Jeremiah. What is it?
Well, because like I see a highlight here, so the roughness looks like it's maybe at like 0.5 or 0.6. I think it just needs to be lower, right? So that you're like what you're saying, these highlights become sharper, reflectivity of anything starts to show up in the surfaces.
Yeah, because if you look at the fan art, and again, if you have a reference, there's pros and cons. Because I will look at the reference and I will teach you and explain what I am seeing with my eyes, and I can see the reflection. I can see it's a very tight hotspot of the reflection. You can see it on the left side on the gray curve, for example, and on the surface, it's very tight, while yours is spreading out a bit. So these are the details I think any artist, should be able to understand and look for, and of course. It is obviously kind of related to lighting, but it also is your material needs to be updated to so the lighting can react correctly. You can see it on the bottom left black side of the left image. You can see that reflection and highlight on the black surface, which you don't see as much on your image again either.
It actually almost feels like glass, or like if you were to use a clear coat shader, you might get a very similar kind of styled effect.
Yeah. This is my observation and my recommendation. It doesn't mean has to be like that. It could be an artistic reason that you want to do differently, but unless it's in the comment, in the text, in your station, I'm gonna assume you didn't notice it. You don't know what's going on, and that's to me means there's always room for development, and we are learning and we're all developing. But that's my observation.
Was that your siren, Amit?
Yes, I live in the middle of London, so I apologize ahead of time if you hear sirens every 5 minutes. I am not the one who's wanted. They're not looking for me. They're not outside my apartment trying to come in. It's just I happen to live in a very populated area of cops and hospitals. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, it's like,
I
yeah, go ahead.
have uploaded the reference of the digger.
Okay.
On
Oh, yeah,
portfolio.
Yeah, so you can see in this reference, notice the reflection and specular again. Notice the different highlights on the.
Wait, where's the reference? I'm like, hang on, wait a minute. Dude, this is crazy. I have like multiple chats happening.
I only have one.
I'm like, yeah.
Very difficult for me. It's a lot of work.
Yes, living in the multiverse.
Just check. So yeah, it's on the portfolio review channel. This image.
Oh, I see. All right.
You know, it's you can see the. I think you can comment this because you can see the materials on the surface. It's actually not even metal. I think it looks very old actually.
Yeah, I got it. There we go. Yeah, it's really diffused on the surface.
Yeah, but notice the edges.
Yeah, the edges on the.
Yeah, these are the details I like to see in the actual work as well. The blade is different though from your reference. If we look at his actual blade that he did, it's you're my main screen suddenly, even though I could probably go on my own screen and share as well. But so yeah, I think so. I would reverse my feedback and say you didn't make it diffuse enough.
Yeah, no, you're right, because right now it feels like on the roughness scale you're maybe sitting at like a 0.6, but in here it looks like it's even like 0.8 or 0.9. Like it's really wide. And then maybe this is kind of why I like to see. We don't have like showing the maps and seeing where your roughness values are at. That can really help with understanding how you're perceiving roughness, right? So, for example, where it's light, maybe those values are actually less rough than the darker areas, just because I'm assuming this is smoother, just as an assumption compared to this. Usually, if you're holding this a lot, it's gonna the surface is just gonna smooth over time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's more of a bevel top on the top as well, which is why you get this nice specular on the source image on the top of the blade. You know, there's still some specular on the top because it's beveled rather than sharp. You know, it's smooth. I don't really know what material it is though. I can't even tell if is it like super old metal or.
I mean, it's got all this micro pitting that's happening, which I know that you got that in there.
Yeah.
But I think see that the bevel is there, but that edge is super sharp, right? If you bevel the bevel, you get that little edge to soften up a little bit more. Then you'll start to get those kind of like those smooth curves in the way the surface reads when light hits it.
Cool. You can give a quick feedback on the rest of the stuff if you want, Jeremiah. And I think we can move on because we need to start kicking out people so the other people can join the stream as well.
Sure. Yeah, so I was just going to say, like, when you look at some of your more recent stuff, this is great that you're showing wireframes now. I think we don't show those enough these days. We're kind of avoiding it because Nanite gives us the secret sauce, and we think we can always just use Nanite. But it's super fun. Don't get me wrong. But you can see the difference in the material types is really good. Like this is feeling much more. I think this is actually ivory as well, if I had to guess. Yeah. This just the values in your roughness and the variation you're getting between the materials is better. The blade feels very strange to me. It's like hyper real, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like there's a lot of emphasis on details, but like the way it's presented on the roughness side of things makes it very intense to look at. Like I don't know what you have to do to metal to make it break up like this. Like it kind of looks like there's some form of an acid path or like pass that happened on it. Yeah. And then maybe the saturation on this wood is maybe a little high.
I think there's a disconnection between two of your sides, as kind of Jeremiah is stating. One side looks a bit weird and acidly like, and then this side has the engraving intact, which is someone who just came from a Japanese gallery looking at weapons and everything. You know, if one side is unclear, the other side would also be kind of having the same traces, and you have it on the bottom of the engraving, but you don't have it on top of the engraving on the same level. And that to me is kind of it looks like the person used just half of the blade on one side. You know, something happened on one side, but the other side is kind of still pretty and intact, if that makes sense. That's something I noticed as well.
Yeah, and that I can look at just the last one here, because this one looks like things are material wise, like surface wise, things are starting to click. This is 6 months ago as well, but the attention to surface detail and the subtleties that you're pushing through your roughness, there's a lot more going on here. I'm actually curious. Something clicked, I think, and you're pushing your surfaces more with subtlety. Like it's not subtle in some shots just because I think you're pushing to show the subtleties themselves, but I think enjoying and really leaning into all those subtleties in your roughness is probably better than emphasizing it to show it. You're muting yourself. But this is definitely stronger. I would show the wireframe on this, and then I think my last notes on this would be like, if you want to be an environment artist, I would want to see more environments. But if you want to be doing like realistic weapons or props, I would push in that direction and just make it clear in your portfolio.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any final words, Gamal, before I forever kick you out of this stream?
Oh, the written is waiting.
Was it useful? Was it useful feedback?
Yeah.
Do you want to have anything question?
Yeah, I actually was like to go further on making environments. I'm making a one now, but it's not finished yet. Yeah, it need more works for like sculpting and making materials, but
cool. Well, keep up the good work. You know, you don't give up, and you already know about Dinusty Empire servers as well, because you obviously got feedback for one of your PCs. So just go there and keep asking for feedback, because obviously it's paying off. And yeah, thank you for tuning onto the stream, and keep watching. Maybe you'll pick up a few advice as we go through the rest of the portfolio as well.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah,
thank you as well.
Bye.
See you. All right, Pulgar was kicked out in case the remaining people need to jump into the stream.